Hey folks, welcome back to Only Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and one of the things I like about the fantasy genre, one of the reasons I spend so much time just looking at the books and trying to figure out which ones I want to read and all of that, out of so many that are out there, is that I really enjoy creative fantasy that a book that does things just different, does things in a strange, new, exciting way, and also at the same time has that familiarity to the genre that very much locks it into the fantasy genre and makes it recognizable as a book of the genre. And in terms of creativity, imagination, and all of that, of the books that I've read this year, the works of Vermin is definitely one of those by Hiron Ennes. I can't even pronounce that name. I'm very sorry in advance, but yeah, like this book is just really spectacular. So, what is it like? What is it even about? They it's just another day on the job as an exterminator for Guy Mullion when and his teammates when they respond to a call to eradicate a new creature that's crawled out of the river, crawled out of this magical miasmic river that's at the foot of the city that they reside in. But this creature is a terror unleashed on the city, the likes of which is never seen. And before this is over, they like before this is over, it's very questionable who's going to get out of this alive. So it's a very simple premise, but what elevates this book so much far beyond that is just Hernandez, his imagination, his writing, and his creativity. So let's get into that. First and foremost, you need to understand something about this book. If you're a fan of China Medieval, of Jeff Vandermeer, of the New Weird in general, this book is right up there. This book is 100% right up there. Because there's so much going on in here, I barely even know where to start. Maybe let's start with the characters. So, we largely follow Guy Mulligan, who is this, like, think of a blue collar worker, except in post-capitalist society so far gone it's almost it's just flat out dystopian furthermore. Like there's no such thing as labor laws or human rights or this kind of thing in this world. Like death is literally tattooed onto your skin, and it's literally tattooed onto your skin, and of course everything is rigged in such a way that you're constantly in debt. So you're essentially living in legal slavery is what it boils down to. Especially when and don't even get started on attempts at social mobility and all of that. Like that does not exist. But of course, as is always the situation with these cases, you have two levels of society. You have the common level where Guy is, and then you have the aristocratic society where the level of privilege and excess is just absolutely obscene. Because of course, as is typically the case with these societies, it's also very authoritarian. So that's all I'll say about the way that the city works and the political structure and all of that. It does play a major part in the book because the cast of the characters that we follow in this book, they come from both lines of defense. We have Guy and his family that he lives with, and the things that they do to survive, and the people who they are, and their histories and their futures and all of that. And those threads are just intertwined throughout this book. And then on the left hand side, we have the aristocratic class and the decisions they make and the excess that they live in, and the sheer degeneration of it all. Because it's that's what it is. It's excess and privilege to the point of degeneracy. So that gives you an idea of what you're dealing with in terms of the cast and characters and all of that. Hernandez doesn't write his characters in a very sympathetic way. So these are not people who you're going to like. If you're a character-based reader, this is not necessarily a book that's going to resonate with you. These characters are not meant to draw in and hook you in and give you like a deep character study and all of that. You do get quite a bit of internal monologue and all of that, but for the most part, it's there primarily to drive forward the story and the ideas and the concepts. And the ideas and the concepts is where this book really shines because this is a city, and especially and art and theater in particular, is just such a major part of this story. Like the plays that are put on, the and the way that that is intertwined into the story itself, because this book itself reads almost like almost like a almost like one of the plays that is put on the stage, just in terms of the politics and the shenanigans and the revenge and all of these things, like that sort of very human drama that you would expect, that is depicted in the kind of plays that this city is obsessed with. That's very much how this story plays out. So that's a really cool meta part of it. But absolutely the arts and the way that it and the way that it affects society, the way that it can be used to create an identity and these kind of things, it's all part of this book. It's all part of it. And the way that it literally and figuratively provides sustenance, because this new creature that's burst onto the scene is one with a taste for the finer things in life, that it likes to build its nest from, and that just sows chaos throughout this entire book as a result of that. And with all of this going on, honestly, this book can feel very it can feel very disjointed. Many times it can feel like you're reading a fever dream. And what just kind of drives that entire feeling home is just Hiron and his writing style, which is just very lush. It's just very evocative. Every scene is almost like a painting in your mind, in just how vivid the imagery is, and how grotesque it can get, both in terms of the way that these characters behave and just the acts that they have to perpetuate, many times just to survive, or just to carve out little slices of a happiness for themselves in a life that's otherwise very, very dreary, we can put it. All of that being said, like, reading through this book, there's quite a bit of it that doesn't quite make sense. It like I said, it feels disjointed. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of context that's provided, and as we read the story and more unfolds, like we that slowly becomes clearer. That feeling becomes clear. It's very intentionally there, because by the end of this book, when everything is revealed, you'll understand why it was written that way. Like, it was very intentionally written that way. It's not a mistake. It's jarring on purpose. It's meant to throw you off, essentially. And in terms of reading experiences, like, it's just a book that just really flows well, because we go from scene to scene, like, things are just intermixed and interspersed in such a way that when you follow these different casts of characters, like, we have we have Guy and the challenges that he faces as a regular worker. We have a specialist who flees from the aristocratic class, and her particular skill set and her troubles, and just that very bohemian society, that very bohemian level of society that she goes through, and all of that. Like, between all of it, it can read, like I said, it can read like very much like a fever dream. This is not a world meant. This is a world that resembles ours, but it's very much not ours. It works differently, in terms of the physics, the biology, and all of that. It's clearly very different, and the way that comes across is Hiron doesn't waste time bothering to give you some massive info number or all of that. Like, you'll see something that's very fantastical, that's very magical, and it's just accepted as just a fact of life when it comes to this, when it comes to living in this world and living in this city. All of that being said, like, this is very much a book that it clearly focuses on some very key themes here, some very key ideas, like the place of art in a society, in a culture, and also on a personal level, on the way that it can inspire, on the way that it can uplift, and these kind of things. We have as you would expect in a situation like this, you have the entire social commentary around capitalism and the rights of and human rights and these kind of things. And then on a more personal level, you have you have family and the bonds that we form with people who aren't necessarily related by blood and these kind of things, and love and that sort of stuff. That really drives it home and brings and really grounds the story. So like, if this sounds like a really confusing take on this book, it can be, because there's just so much to talk about. Like I can barely wrap my mind around where I even want to start. I keep thinking, oh, I want to talk about something, and then I think, oh, but this is also really cool, I want to mention this. And yeah, I don't exactly script these videos. So anyway, needless to say, this book, it was just a really enjoyable reading experience. It's definitely one of the more creative, one of the more imaginative stories I've read this year, and I think it's going to be one of my favorite books of this year. It's definitely a book that has me much more interested in reading pretty much anything Hiron Ennes is going to put out in the future. So yeah, I think honestly that's all I have to say about the works of Vermin. If you made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.